move on to the public blockchain, the private blockchain, and the hybrid.
Prepare for launch. 3, 2, 1.
Now, the public blockchain is, the name implies public for everybody to use and everybody to check on the transactions. Now, for example, the Bitcoin blockchain. Even if I don't own any Bitcoin, even though I don't use the Bitcoin at all, I will still be able to go on to the Explorer and check out which account has sent how much of Bitcoin to the other person. But I won't be able to know who actually that person, because all I get is the account address. And as long as that person don't tell me that, like, oh, this is my Bitcoin address, I won't be able to know that account belong to B or belong to Long, right? The things. So that is the public blockchain. Everybody can go and scrutinize every transaction. Private blockchain need a permission to join. It could be run by enterprises, and only the employee can go in. Other people won't be able to do any transactions nor check on the information. And whether they will be able to check on the information or not, sometimes it also depends on, like, how much of the transparency the private blockchain want to give, because it's customizable. But generally, if they do not, generally they won't let other people see it. And in the private blockchain, you might be able to set a different level of access as well. Probably some people can only view, and some people can be able to write transactions to the blockchain. And for example, another good way to use a private blockchain is probably a government, and probably says that, like, if I want to use the account, because every account is unique, right? You have a key pair, and everybody can have one account. Somebody have more than one account. But says if I want to use this account as our national ID, in the government won't want to open this blockchain to everybody in the world. They will only register their own citizen in this network. For example, I don't think any government is thinking of doing this at this moment. I'm just saying this as an example, probably hoping one of the government is going to do this to make everything transparent. And hybrid is where you have a public blockchain and the private blockchain works together and in a cross-chain situations. Because when you have, for example, if I want to have a private chain for my enterprise, the good thing about having the private chain of the enterprise is you can kind of like control a lot of things, and you can even make the transactions more quick and more scalable, because you kind of limit a lot of things, and you can control the environment. But then it gives less confidence to the public if says that, like, this private chain also involves the public. For example, if I use this private chain for the supply chain of the product of my company, I do not want to let the public to be able to, send any transactions about the movement of my product if I use this blockchain to trade the product, right? But I would like to let the public to know that at which point this product is transferred to which point, so that, like, they kind of like have more trust on the movement of my product, and then that give better branding to my company as well. So I'm going to at a certain point of time, I'm going to send some transactions to the public blockchain and be able to let the public be able to check on here is where certain information is being written and locked into the public chain, means that this enterprise commit to whatever information they share with the public. That is kind of one of the way you use the public chain and the private chain together. And also we are talking about a lot of layer 2 technology over here as well, because there is something called the blockchain trilemma. And it's just like, any of us building a software. You want it to be quick, you want it to be cheap, and you want it to be good. It can't be that good, right? So you pick two. You want to be good and quick, it must be expensive. You want it to be cheap and you want it to be cheap and fast, it might not be that good. So blockchain have this kind of dilemma as well, that you want it to be decentralized, you want it to be secure, and you want it to be scalable. Pick two. It's very difficult and almost impossible. I won't say impossible, because a lot of the blockchains is going into different technology that going to address this, but how much they're going to be addressed, all these three is a bit early to say, but generally that is the trilemma that a blockchain is having, just like the trilemma we have in any software building as well, this is the blockchain trilemma that I was talking about just now. So if they wanted the blockchain to be more scalable, then they're probably gonna go to a more centralized way of using proof of stake, because when you use proof of work, it's kind of like everybody need to be guessing the answer to the puzzle, and everybody gonna compete with each other to add their blocks to the blockchain. So it becomes not very scalable, because that need a lot of computing power. I think you have heard of, just now we have been debating that, the cost involved in mining the Bitcoin is actually a lot of, not only about the power impact to the environment, the need of the hardware. Are we up to it now? The chipsets that we have, is it capable in doing that? And if we want to go there, okay, let's not have everybody to involved in this process. So less computer involved in this process. We do not have to have so much power in doing the computations. So the cost is going to be cheaper. But with less people, not everybody, but less people in maintaining this network, it's going to make it cheaper. But definitely, because it's not as distributed, the security is going to compromise a little bit over here. It depends on how small is the group that is being selected in doing all this kind of verifications of the transactions. If you say that you want to use blockchain as in day-to-day transactions like Visa and Master kind of credit cards, then the speed is very important. Then you do need to go for the speed and the scalability of it. If you just want to talk about that, okay, with Bitcoin, we able to solve the problem of the international remittance problem, it works well now. So yeah, it depends on what kind of application you want to use it on. Then you look into that and solve that issue. That would be more possible and more effective that way, in my opinion.